Awesome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. People always say that because we have no idea where in the world you are from. And we just see black squares, which is always tricky. So if you guys would be open to show us your faces, that's always appreciated. We don't feel so lonely. So my name's Anna Marie. You'll also see on the call Marita and Alison. Marita usually co-facilitates with me. I'm the mad person who started this whole process many moons ago, and then Alison is great from a support point of view. So thank you for being on the call with us. We run these events regularly to just give people a bit of a slice into our practitioners course, which is kind of I call it our Rolls-Royce course. If anyone wants to be involved or are interested in Sentry Intelligence and would like to use it into their respective practices in whatever type of work you are doing, then this is obviously the course that we really would like to explain to you. Why would it be worthwhile and what would you gain from it? So thanks for being on the call. What we're going to do today, I'm just going to give you a bit of an overview on what this course is all about and a little bit of a slice into Sentry Intelligence, who we are, what we do. And then after that, Marita is going to take you through our learning management system just to show you a little bit more depth and meat on what is this course all about. And then I want to share the Sentry Matrix with you. The Sentry Matrix is an assessment that I've designed many moons ago, and also give you a little bit of an idea on it. Really explains really nicely what process are we following and how do we help people using a Sentry Intelligence approach. Maybe Marita and Alison, do you want to maybe just introduce yourself? And then after that, I'm also going to ask the group to just give us an idea where they are signing in from. But maybe Marita and then Alison, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, Ali, you go ahead.
Hi, I'm Ali. I'm the support person here at Sentry Intelligence. I'm the person that you would deal with any queries on our website, on our courses, on our workshops. I'm your go-to person, and I will try and answer all your questions. I'm originally from England. I've been with the company for 2 years. I love it. I can't imagine working anywhere else. And Sentry Intelligence has just opened my eyes and my heart and my relationships and everything. It's been amazing. It's been an amazing journey.
Thanks, Ali.
Thank you. We didn't pay her to say that, by the way. We pay her for work.
Not yet.
Free testimonial. Ali, that was really nice. Yeah, we love having her as well. So Marita, over to you for introduction.
Yeah. I'm an occupational therapist. In my previous life, I worked with children, absolutely loved it. And then I realized one day I wasn't coping, and I went on a course on the practitioner's course that Anna Marie did, and it was still face-to-face in Cape Town, and realized I've got to make changes because my life wasn't suiting my Sentry style. So that's where I came into the picture. Like I said, I am an occupational therapist. I'm also the one that sees the details, sees the I's that's not dotted and the T's that's not crossed. So I'm not always the most famous or the most, everyone doesn't always like that. Popular, that's the word. Thank you. But I think a wonderful thing that we've really realized in our team is if you really look at everyone's strengths, then you really make the best team. So I've been with the company from 2017. It's been an absolute pleasure. I love every minute of it. I live my life according to Sentry Intelligence. Otherwise, I would definitely go bonkers and be somewhere on an island. And I hope you all really enjoy this session. And please, if you have any questions, it's meant to be an interactive session. So please feel free to ask any questions at any stage.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Marita. Maybe what we can do, we've got a few people on the call. If you can just give us an idea where you are signing in from. So maybe use the chat box, because it does look like you are all very camera shy. So if we can see your faces, I'll ask again, then please feel free to. Thank you, Lorna. Then give us your view and your visual and your video. Janke, that's awesome. We really like to see your faces. But if you want to switch your video off, whether it's connectivity or whether you've got a bad hair day or you just want to minimize the input, then you are really welcome to do that too. So Tamron, you from Paarl in the Western Cape, South Africa. Awesome. Who else? Can the rest of the group also tell us where you are signing in from? So Janke and then Ruanil. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. That's what's on the screen. So if your name, just change your name on the screen so that we can know. Okay, Lorna, you from Johannesburg. Okay, awesome. So it's 2 South Africans. Kirshni, Barry, Yanka, where are you guys from? So that we just have an idea.
Barry's from Canada, but I'm in Spain.
Oh, Barry, you're from Canada and you're in Spain. How lucky. I hope you're on holiday.
No, I kind of mostly live here now.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Thanks. Glad that you're on the call, Barry. Okay, Letitia Ruani. Okay, Letitia, thank you so much from Brazil. That's awesome. And then Krishni, you are from Durban, South Africa, and Yonkers, West Coast, South Africa. Okay, brilliant. So thank you. You're really, really welcome, guys. So let me take you through, I'm briefly going to talk to you, doing a bit of introduction on Sentry Intelligence. Where does this fit in? What are we talking about if we talk Sentry Intelligence to start off with? And then obviously, as mentioned, Marita will take it further, and then I'll end up with the Sentry Magic. I am going to share a few slides with you, just so that it's a little bit more clear for you. Let me start with slideshow here. Okay, and so what is Sentry Intelligence? I think I've seen some of your names are familiar, so I think some of you might know a little bit of the work that we are doing, but those of you who it's a repeat for, I think repetition is anyway how the brain learns. So I'm also an occupational therapist, and I've been studying and working with Sentry integration with children many, many years ago. I've been working for more than 30 years in this field. But it's based on the sensory processing theory, which has got roots in the occupational therapy world, but also in psychology. It's also studied in environmental sciences. It's also studied in food sciences. And also, happily, there's a big shift globally in using sensory intelligence for workplace design, which is fascinating for me. I'm really, really chuffed about that. The traditional approach has been with children with learning problems, but that our work has definitely been how do we make it a lot more applicable to a wider group, a wider population, and across all ages. And sensory intelligence refers to all of us. We all have benefit to take from it. So it's not just grouped or situated or destined to impact people with autism or ADHD or any kind of diagnosis. Absolutely not. It definitely has benefit and use for any diagnostic group or any group with a particular problem. But my whole mission many, many years ago was to take sensory processing and to make it more accessible to the wider population and the general public, because I think it's fascinating stuff. It's really, really fascinating. So sensory intelligence is about the 7 senses. We don't just have 5. I'll talk to you more about that. And intelligence is about knowing and understanding. We are different. IQ or EQ, you always must improve that. You're never good enough. For sensory intelligence, you can't change your results, what we measure, and we'll explain to you about that. And we don't want you to change your result because it's part of your genes. This is how you are wired. Sensory intelligence refers to, do you understand this? What does it mean for you as an individual? How can you adapt your environment, your life, or your activities accordingly? And it really is a great way to understand how we are wired. And there is no right or wrong or less or more. It really is understanding who you are and what should you be doing about that. That's really important. So what we mostly do is assessment, training, and people development around sensory processing. Yes, I've mentioned we do assessments. It's all online assessments. And then we do workshops and we do coaching. So whether it's one-to-one or workshops, and the practitioner's course has been designed to enable other practitioners or other professionals working in this particular space that want to incorporate sensory processing in their field of practice. And I started this course in 2012 already because I was seeing the benefit. And as I was unpacking and working with the tools, it was my way to expand the reach for that. So the focus that we have is the interaction between the human brain and the environment. So the environment in our understanding is really, really critical, and we use it extensively to help people to understand how does the senses influence the brain through the environment. And the value is, first and foremost, there's a huge benefit in health and well-being, and in particular focus on mental health. And we all know, I'm kind of going to assume that with this group here, that mental health and well-being are huge triggers currently globally. World Health Organization, there's a 25% increase in anxiety and depression post-COVID. And we also know mental health is going to cost the world economy $6 trillion in 2030. 6 trillion. So it's a huge amount. So a lot of that was one of our previous free events. We focused on mental health and well-being. And then a previous event, we also talked about productivity. How do we understand our senses from a day-to-day productivity point of view? And then it also has a huge impact on relationships. So if any one of you are particularly interested, we actually dedicated separate events on those 3 topics, but that is the application. Today's event will be a little bit different structured. So, and it's really all basic body-brain sciences, absolutely rooted in neuroscience. There's a lot of research to support this. And look, if you guys let me loose, I can get a bit crazy on research. I'm a bit of a nerd. I've done my own PhD, have also written a scholastic, a scholarly article just recently. It's in for review. But there's a lot of research to back this up. So if any one of you are interested, we've got a whole research page on our website, so you are welcome to go and read through that as well. So this is the wonderful human brain that we have, and we do have 7 senses, and we know sensory information gets stimulated from the environment, and through all the sensory pathways, they sit outside of the central nervous system. They sit outside of the brain, and they do enter the brain at the spinal cord at the bottom. So all of our senses, the 7 of them, which I'll take you through briefly, actually enter the brain at the bottom before it's being sent up to the top of the brain. So it's like any hierarchy, information needs to come in at the bottom in order to reach the top. So it's really, really important to understand this. So what are the 7 senses? Seeing and hearing. Seeing and hearing are the primary senses that we use to think, to act, do whatever we do, and they are quite significantly overloaded. I think COVID for us and the resulted change or move into home working, remote working, and hybrid working for us is really, really important. And we're really happy about that because we believe environment really matters to help people to be productive. So that shift has been very positive in creating a sense of flexibility and not a one-size-fits-all for work environment. However, what it has done, we are spending a lot more time behind our devices. So digital fatigue is definitely something that we are seeing exponentially coming up because of that. Touch, smell, and taste are our social senses. And particularly touches in the skin from the top of your head right down to the soles of your feet. You have skin across your whole body. It's our widest receptor area for any sense. It is a strong connection sense, intimacy. How do we engage with other people? Smell and taste, smell significantly as well. Taste doesn't have that much of a social component, but touch and smell together, in particular touch very much around social engagement, and then clothing and shower and grooming and all kind of activities of daily living. The key thing about touch and the level of deprivation is that there is more social disengagement, and loneliness has been always there, but I definitely also think that has been a ripple effect or an added negative result that we're seeing post-COVID now. And then the 2 movement sensors, vestibular, proprioception. Vestibular is in your inner ear. It gives you feedback of where your body is in space. And it works very much with proprioception in your muscles and your joints. Every time when you move a muscle or you move a joint, you actually stimulate the proprioceptive system. Critical, those are our regulation sensors. And the regulation sensors are also not utilized enough. We sit too much, and our natural patterns of being able to use or change the body is being compromised. So really, really important that we also spend time on the movement sensors. So those are the 7 senses, just in a quick nutshell. And then briefly, the brain has 2 sides, top side, 2 parts, not 2 sides. It has got 2 sides, left and right as well. We don't necessarily look at that. That plays a lot more of a role if we look at cortical patterns, because it really refers to the executive brain has 2 sides. But if we look at the brain from a top or a bottom point of view, the top part of the brain is conscious, controlled, and calculated, which includes the left and the right hemisphere. And it's for reason, thinking, learning, and performing. But the bottom part of the brain is a lot more unconscious, uncontrolled, intuitive, comfort levels. Okay. So this really happens with us even being aware of it. And important to remember that the thinking brain allocates about 20% of brain activity to go towards thought processing and action and executive function. But there's a lot of activity, and we could possibly look at the brain 80-20% here. There's about 80% of activity, energy of the brain that is being utilized to these primitive parts. Are we okay? Are we safe? What do we need to look out for? Does the body and the brain feel comfortable? Those of you who are interested in neuroscience, please read the book. I wonder if I've got it close. I don't think so. Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. If anyone of you haven't read that book, please read it. It's brilliant. It really refers to 80-20% and this methodology of understanding the human brain in a lot more detail. And then obviously attention, emotion, and behavior are the three core functions that we work with. Attention, focus, concentration, being able to let go of distractions and be focused on what I need to do. Emotion, obviously, how are we showing up from an emotional point of view, and how does it stipulate behavior? And our sensory processing on a very primitive level first do a lot of this filtering. So basically, if you can look at the brain first sense if the information come in, because remember, it comes in at the bottom, then it feels, and then it thinks. Now, I'm obviously unpacking the brain, which is highly complex in a very practical and a rudimentary way. It's a lot more complex than that, of course, but it's an easy way to understand how sensory information plays a role up front with those initial processes. So the brain sense, then feel, and then think. So hierarchical, we really focus on what is happening in our primitive brain in the lower part of the brain. There's obviously a huge amount of parts that play a role here, and how does it influence us? And it's all around the environment. Okay. Okay, that's it. So I'm going to stop sharing if you don't mind. Let me just do that. Stop share. And that's just a little bit of an introduction into sensory intelligence, because I think that brain images really provides a nice introduction. Then what I'm going to do now, before I hand over to Marita, I want Marita to take you through the practitioner's course. What do we cover? And I'll just briefly give you some of the logistics. We run it over a 6-week period, 2 hours every Tuesday and every Thursday. We run it for 2 hours. We obviously have to have a 15-minute break in the middle, in between, because we certainly don't want to make you digitally fatigue. And then we run through 12 modules. And then the 13th module is a bonus session. And we really aim to take you through the theory, the science, where does it come from, the research, and then we take you through the assessment modules and then application. But after you've done through, if you've been through this course, you will not only understand sensory processing for adults, but you'll also have a really good way of how do you apply it in a consultation method. For firstly yourself, you're going to benefit immensely from it yourself. But then secondly, how can you apply it to your clients? Okay, we do not teach a hands-on model. It's a hands-off model, meaning it's a consultation framework. Yeah, so Marita, do you want to take over and then just share with the group and maybe take them through the learning management system? Guys, I'm just going to stop my unmute so that I don't really interfere from the side. Thanks, Marita.
Perfect. All right. So when you join the course, you'll hear quite a lot of Kajabi. Kajabi is like second nature to us now. Kajabi is our learning management system. When COVID struck, it was really difficult to figure out how we were going to do this. And Kajabi is where we keep everything together. Kajabi is fantastic. When you sign up, you have 65 days access, as Anna-Marie said. And we've really had wonderful feedback from people that they say, due to the fact that it's not full on 3 days anymore, but stretched over 13 sessions over 6.5 weeks, it really gives you time to go over the information, because all the sessions are recorded. So I'd like to show you the modules and just give you a little bit of an idea of what it looks like. So this is Kajabi. This is where everything is on. First, we start with our introduction. And if you sign up, you will get access to Kajabi a few days before the course starts so that you can really orientate yourself. First, the welcome, your agenda and your time slot. Everybody has a time slot that you sign up for, and you stick to that time slot, either 9 to 11 in the morning, South Africa time, or 3 to 5 in the afternoon. And on the agenda, you can really keep track of what's going to happen when. The dates are on there as well. We do have, I'm just going to go into agenda and time slot to show you, we do often have downloadable PDFs and downloadable things that you can download for yourself as well. So that you will all find in Kajabi. You can find a description. And in each module, in each post, you will find a comment section, which is absolutely wonderful, because this is where we all communicate. You can communicate not only with us, but also with everybody else that's in the course. And you can even go and read through previous messages, which really makes it nice. You'll see, this is now the agenda one, but you will see when we get to theory, neuroscience, actually all the modules. There's so many fascinating questions that come up, and it's really like a library of information. We give you the outline and the objectives, access to the course content, because sometimes this can get a little bit tricky initially. So we really go into trouble. There's a recording that you can watch to tell you exactly what happens where. What is Kajabi? What is it for? When do you need it? What is Digify? What is it for? When do you need it? When you get onto the course, we'll talk more about that, but it really gives you a very, very good understanding of where to go and where to find everything. And if you're still stuck, you simply ask either me, Anna Marie, or Alison. We will give you those answers. A little bit about me and Anna Marie. But yeah, you'll see during the course, it does become personal, not digging deep, but it does become personal. So you'll learn even more about the two of us as well during the course as we go into more depth once we get to the Century Matrix and how that relays how you experience the world around you. Later on in the course, we do a lot of group work, breakout rooms, breakout sessions. So here you can find the group distribution. We go through a lot of trouble to make sure that people are grouped in a group that would make sense. It would either be people that's got the same interest, or people that is in the same kind of work, or work with the same kind of clients, just to make that group work make more sense for you. Competition time. This is a fun one for me. We do have a bit of healthy competition. It's just to see who's really the most engaged, who participates the most, who's on each live session, which everybody should be. And really just it's just healthy competition with very nice prizes at the end. All right, so our modules, there's 12, and then we have a bonus session, as Anna Marie mentioned. First, our introduction to Century Intelligence, just to give you a little bit of background. And then each time we have homework and reflections. So what you will see is it will either be a downloadable that you can do for the next session. And remember, sessions are Tuesdays and Thursdays. So you do have time in between. And there's always a little bit of a description as well to really help you understand what it is that you need to do. And as you can see here, there were already 173 comments, which is lovely to read. And we always respond to these comments. Okay, so that's module 1, training. Once you hit complete, you can go to the next category, and then you'll see, I'm just going to go back to the overview, which makes it a little bit easier for me. Let's have a look. All right, so module 2 is then more about the theory and the constructs of Century processing. And
Marie, can I interfere quickly?
Yeah, sure.
Maybe just mention all of these sessions are live. So they are live Zoom sessions. So you will actually be incorporated into a live session. And this is every single live session also gets recorded, and then it gets transitioned over to the learning management system. So you've got a double whammy. You can join the live sessions, and we obviously want you to join the live sessions, but then you can also listen back to the recording afterwards as well. So I was just wanting to make that clear. Thanks, Marita. Go ahead.
Thanks for mentioning that, because what's really nice is we try to go between the AIM and the PM session that we add onto the learning management system. So when it gets to group work, feedback, and really the application, you do learn from not only your own group, but also from the other group. So that really makes it really very nice. Module 3, neuroscience, brain networks, and sensory pathways. The first few modules is the heavy loading. That's heavy work. It's very interesting, but it's good that you have the extra time in between, really just to let it all sink in. And here, for instance, we give a few extra links, articles, and images. So if there's anything additional and we think it would be worth your while, there was an article, there are some images. So we really try and share as much information as possible that you can use in your own time. All right. Then we get to sensory assessment. So first it's a theory and how it all works and where it comes from. And then we get to sensory assessments. First, an overview of the different assessments for adults. And then we really start drilling into the sensory matrix, which is we just love the sensory matrix. Anna-Marie is going to show you more about it. It really, really helps make this work real. Not only for you as either the therapist or the coach, but also for your client, because you get a wonderful report. It's easy to implement, easy to understand, easy to use, and it's based on neuroscience. So with the matrix, we have two parts because there's really a lot to be said about it and a lot of detail to go into. And there we also start with group work. What's wonderful about this is you will also get 2 passwords when you sign up for the course. Sorry, not passwords anymore. We talk about tokens now. You'll get 2 sensory matrix tokens. So the one you'll do your own sensory matrix, and the other one you'll do on either a client or a colleague or a family member. It often ends up being your partner. And this is the information that we'll use for discussion. So it really, really becomes real. It's not just examples of people you don't know. We make it as real as possible. All right, so after we've gone through the sensory matrix, it now becomes more about the application. So we go into intervention models and frameworks, always interesting stuff that comes up there from all the different fields where people work. We look at mental health and well-being. And there's a wonderful, wonderful research study by Melanie de Villiers, which is really fascinating, which I'm not going to tell you anything about. Join the course and then you'll find out more. Some extra links that we share, homework and reflections every time. The next module, after mental health and well-being, we zone in on relationships, because you'll see whether it's from a corporate perspective, whether it's from a home perspective, whether it's as a teacher, there's really a lot of different applications that you can use it for relationships. Yeah. Okay, the next module, module 10. Workplace productivity plays a huge role. I think especially now that after COVID, should we go back to the office? Should we not? Should we stay at home? Should we have hybrid? Who fits where? It really helps to know instead of your workplace productivity, how sensory intelligence plays a role and how it can really help you to be the most productive and the happiest employee and employer, actually. Sensory matrix for clients and case studies. Case studies, I know, is always huge for Anna-Marie because none of us do it and all of us should, because that's where we really show what a big difference sensory intelligence and really looking at people's sensory styles, what a big difference it can make for clients. So we look at the training. There's a lot of extra videos here that shows you once you've learned about the sensory matrix and once you want to use it, especially in a group setting, but also individual, how you use that and how you debrief the sensory matrix results. So after this course, you really have a lot of information and you can go out there and do it and use it immediately. That's really wonderful. Case study template that we give you to make things even easier. And then the last module is the implementation and the way forward, where we talk a little bit about what is the path that you can follow going forward. Once you've done the course, you're always a practitioner. You're also always a sensory intelligence practitioner. But then there's even a further step that you can take with more value-added benefits. We talk about ordering your sensory matrix, and there you'll have lots to do with Alison. The final points, the course evaluation, your reference list, which is a really, really extensive reference list and resources. Our other tool, Senses on Call, and we'll talk about in workplace productivity, we'll talk about our new product as well, Senses at Work, which has more to do with workplace productivity. And then we also look at holistic and alternative interventions, because we do believe that, you look at your client and what your client needs, and you look holistically. And then we have the bonus session. This is usually a session where you can bring all your answers, anything you're not sure about anymore, any additional questions you might have, any question marks. This is a very interactive session that you can just share and ask. It's not compulsory, but we do find that people really find a lot of benefit from this session. So that's Kajabi. That's the learning management system.
Thank you so much, Marita. I wonder, can we take a bit of a pause before I go further and hear anyone who's got some questions? Maybe, let me just see if there's some questions. So you can either pop them in the chat box, or you can raise your hand and verbally also mention it. We would love to know at this stage, what would you like to know more about before I go further? Any questions? Well, while you maybe get your questions ready, you can pop them in the chat box or raise your hand and unmute and ask them as well. Maybe one thing, who is this course for? I think that's also really important. So it is really open to anyone who's in the healthcare profession. So any therapist or any healthcare practitioner, wellness practitioners, but psychologists, speech therapists, social workers, nurses, anyone who works with mental health and well-being in various stages. Then it's also open to coaches. We also have ICF, International Coaching Federation, CPD points for it. We are registered with the ICF. So any coach that want to add another tool to their toolbox, it will be very useful for them. And it really is around wellness and behavior coaching, obviously. Then there's also been a huge interest in workplace designers, workplace professionals that want to start to look at design alternatively. And I think in the workplace design area, it seems to be rooted around neurodiversity or designing for neurodiversity. And as I've already mentioned, it is really applicable for neurodiversity, but also across the board for various other people. And then this course is also open for HR who do work in learning and organizational development from a people point of view. The whole idea of this course is to empower other people to utilize and use it with either their employees or with the particular clients. From an HR point of view, I think there's a huge merit where you can introduce this as an intervention in the workplace. For groups of employees in any kind of organization, whether it's small, medium, or large. I do think it's got huge benefit. So I think maybe that was just sharing again, who is this course for? Any other questions? You guys seems to be camera shy and question shy. Then I'm assuming we are on the right space. There's no questions. Okay, then what I would like to do, I just want to get my Sentry Matrix up. Okay, there's no questions. Okay, what I want to share with you is just, you've heard Marita refer to the Sentry Matrix, and we share a lot about the history and the development of the Sentry Matrix as an assessment. And just to make it clear to you, yes, we teach the Sentry Matrix on this course, but it's totally, whether you want to use this as a tool or not want to use this as a tool going forward, it's totally open to you. You don't need to. We do find a lot of people really enjoy it. There's not a lot of adult instruments measuring sensory processing. And I designed this tool because I was so frustrated with the one that I was using during my PhD process. So you are welcome to use it, but you don't need to, okay? So just as a mention to that. So I'm just going to share with you, okay, I haven't shared my screen. I'm just going to share my screen again, and I'm going to talk you through what the Sentry Matrix look like. Okay, so it has been designed firstly to anyone. It's not a diagnostic tool. It is a tool for people to understand, how am I wired? What are my senses? How do they work? How does it influence my life? Okay, this was the whole idea. And there's a lot of people who just bump onto our website and who complete the Sentry Matrix for themselves, and then they read through the report, and we often go back to them and say, Are you okay with it? Do you want more of a debrief? Do you want one of our coaches or one of our therapists to work with you on that? And the answer usually is, no, it's brilliant. The report is explanatory. And there are a lot of people who we don't work further with the Century Matrix, but obviously a lot of people who we do that for. There's a lot of practitioners in mental health, in workplace design, and also from an HR point of view that are utilizing this with their particular clients or organizations. So I'm just going to talk you through. Let me just, is it big enough to see, Marita, or should I make it bigger?
If you can zoom in a little bit, that'll be good.
Let me just view.
Possible.
Okay. Just,
One
I
more
can do that
time.
as well. All right, there
Yeah,
you go.
that
Is
looks
better?
good.
No,
That looks
better.
good.
So let's just talk you through it. So the Century Matrix is basically, it's a 26-page report. I know it's a lot. I remember when I designed this report, it was actually double the amount of pages. And then marketing people came to me and said, you are crazy. You need to cut on this. So it is 26 pages that we take you through your senses. What are the contents? So benefits and introduction, the Century Tree. The Century Tree is quite a nice analogy that we use. A lot of people love the Century Tree. It's a great way to make the concepts user-friendly, and it's utilized a lot. We talk about general insights. Then we've got Century strategies for each Century system, Century strategies for home, Century strategies for work. Okay, but I'm going to take you through it so that you understand what are the benefits, what are your results. We are measuring Century thresholds. And Century thresholds is presented on a continuum between low thresholds and high thresholds, Century avoiders to Century seekers. So this is what we are measuring. We're measuring it for each of your systems, but then also we do get a total result. And what insights do you get from this? And then most importantly, what strategies are you going to use for that? Right. So, and how does the environment impact the human brain? So I can't resist. How has the course been designed to cater to the different time zones? Okay. So 9 to 11 and 3 to 5. Oh, Marita, you've already answered. So thank you. I saw that there was a question. So yeah, we do navigate different time zones. I think people in Canada and on the US East Coast, they need to do US West Coast. They need to get up a little bit early in the morning to do that. So those fast stretches is a little bit, but we do have 2 different time zones. So individuality and introduction, we're talking about person, environment, interaction. This is just and then we introduce people to the Century Tree. Are you a trunk, a root, or a leaf? What's nice about it, it really becomes such easy, non-threatening terminology, particularly for people who work together. We've used this extensively with workplace teams, and they find it exceptionally useful. There's no right or wrong, and it becomes really nice terminology for people to use. For instance, we've done it with our clients. We take a whole group through it, and then if there's new employees that's getting onboarded or that joins the organization, we onboard them and then take them through their matrix as well. So it's a great way for them to understand each other. Firstly, understanding yourself and then understanding each other. So system scores, total scores, we talk about that. And then this is really the crux of the tool that we are working with. So this is the results. What are your thresholds for visual? This person is -3, which is low. What are your results for auditory? This person has got a fluctuating score, which means there's a plus and a minus. That's quite common. That means it's usually across context or for different type of stimulation. Touch is -2, it's medium threshold. Smell and taste is -1, it's also medium threshold. Movement is -3, it's a little bit low thresholds. And multisensory is also fluctuating. Multisensory is just a combination of many senses together. And how does it impact our environments? And then obviously the total result here was a -13. So overall, this person has got lower thresholds, but then there's some deviation within the systems. So we always look at both of them. And why I've designed this, because traditionally, the older sensory processing tools for adults would give you a category for all of it together. But I was frustrated because if you know someone is sensitive, you want to understand for which sense, because the type of sense where the sensitivity or the seeking might be occurring will mean what are you going to use as a strategy. Because if I'm low threshold or sensory sensitive for auditory, then I need to reduce sounds, music, distractions, and noises. I've got a high threshold for movement, then I need to increase my physical activity and the way that I move my body. And we do have these different patterns across all the different systems. It's very, very common. We very seldom have one person across the board in all. It does happen, but it's quite rare. Okay, so that's the results. Then we also put that for you on a tree. This is your sensory tree. And we also, if we go into the course, we do a tree for the whole the delegate group, and we talk about the sensory tree for us as a group. And it's stuff like, okay, who has their video on and who's got their video off, who prepares better for before the sessions and who doesn't prepare as much. So we really play around with all the dynamics and the behavior trends that we are seeing based on the group's results as well. So it's a great way for personal learning as well. And Marita and I are both very open to share and to learn. We're very authentic and I think transparent and honest. It's changed the way that we operate as a team. It's changed my life. My whole life, my whole family, my house, everything that I do is based on my understanding of what my body needs and what my sensory thresholds are. And we as a team also function around that. We don't always get it right, but I promise you we live these strategies on a day-to-day basis. So we also talk about your systems. What does it mean? What thresholds are your system? Do you need more? Do you need less? The total score, what does it mean? So that's just a summary. And then we starts to go into the results. This is the general insights page. And we've just been through a whole 2-week roadshow where we've been speaking to people who use the matrix a lot. And everyone loves page 12. And there's a lot of people who always start with page 12 for themselves or when they work with their clients. Firstly, sensory habits and behaviors. Okay, your score would be at the top there. But what habits and behaviors do you have which is associated with your thresholds? And I mean, I can keep you busy for weeks and weeks and weeks just talking about our quirks and our habits and how are they driven by our sensory thresholds. What is the best environment for you? And what is the best environment for you is really critical for us as adults, for older adults, for adolescents, for children, because if we can surround ourselves with the right environment, we will reduce distractions and stress, period. That's as simple as that. So it's not always possible to get the perfect environment, but do we know how the environment influences us? And how do you typically manage and experience stress? We can determine the stress risk and the burnout risk for people based on their thresholds. It's documented, it is in the research, and I share this research very clearly if we go through the course. So this is not a diagnostic tool. I'm repeating, it's not, but we can make a real good prediction around how likely people will be to get stressed or not, or how fast or how intensely. So I think that's really important. So that's general insights. Then all of our strategies are bottom up. Bottom up meaning we do not use cortical strategies. Not that we say they're not important. We are just saying we use bottom up because if we use a bottom up approach, we apply sensory-based strategies. So what do we do? Not what do we think, what do we do? Because we all know if your brain is in a state of disarray or you're not really functioning, then thinking too much about it doesn't help, but then actually activating self-regulation through your senses is faster, easier, and gets better results. And these are the 3 ways in which we do it: sensory snacks, sensory diets, and sensory ergonomics. None of it you can eat. Okay, so people always say sensory diet, sensory snacks and diets. No, it's not what you eat. Sensory snacks are what are the quick, fast, and easy. Shouldn't take you longer than 3 minutes, max 5 minutes at any given time to actually get your brain and your system regulated. And if we talk about self-regulation, how do we increase focus, increase attention, lower stress levels, get the brain in the best top alert state? So we really talk about sensory snacks, sensory diets. What activities should you be doing in your general life? Should you be walking on the mountain? Should you do a race car driving in your free time, quilting, horse riding? Whatever it is that you do, are your day-to-day activities that you are choosing to spend your free time in, is that adhering to your sensory needs, because if it does, it's going to help your brain and your body stay in a healthy state. And sensory economics, how do we change the environment? Okay. Visual, so you'll see each sense has got its own page. So for visual, based on your score there, what sensory snacks should you be applying, what sensory diets, what sensory economics. So we literally unpack that for each of these. For instance, a sensory snack would be close your eyes and take a few deep breaths. Okay, deep breathing is not necessarily not necessarily visual, but deep breathing is such a strong regulator. But purely closing your eyes, which can take you a few seconds, is reducing potential visual overload. Auditory, so based on your score, what sensory snacks, what sensory diets, what sensory economics should you be doing based on your results? So all of the results through our algorithm in the background gets generated based on what your scores have been. Touch, my most favorite sense. What did you do from a sensory snacks, sensory diet, and sensory economics point of view? For instance, why is this called a stress ball? Okay. So a stress ball utilizes touch and proprioception together. So you touch something and then you squeeze it, and that actually regulates the body and the brain through 2 sensory pathways. That's why it's called a stress ball. For those of you who might be twirling your hair, or might be, fiddling with your fingers, or, maybe have something soft that you use, it's actually a tactile regulator. And it's really very appropriate, and it's okay to do that. That would be a sensory snacks. Sensory diet, for instance, a massage. Sensory economic, look at temperature in your environment. Okay. Then smell and taste, the same thing. Sensory snacks, sensory diet, sensory economics for smell and taste. For movement, the same thing, as well as for multisensory, sensory snacks, sensory diet, sensory economics. And we really believe very strongly in applying all of these strategies consistently. I have to share this with you. There's one of our licensed users. She did the course 2 years ago. And when she did the course, it's such a fascinating story. She did the course, and at that stage, her mum was very ill and her mum died. And even though the course was very tricky for her, she hung onto it. And afterwards, she spoke to us about the fact that what she did, she really implemented, because when you do the course, you do your own matrix first. She implemented all the strategies, and she said she lost 10 kilograms because only then afterwards to realize, yes, she was in a difficult emotional state. But as she was starting to apply the sensory-based strategies, she stopped nibbling and overeating, and she lost weight because she was displacing the food and the need to nibble and to constantly be snacking on the sensory-based strategies. So for instance, she's one of our users that is starting to look at working and applying this for people who struggle with weight loss, which I just think is fascinating. So sensory strategies for home. How do you set up your house? Because we know a home can be sensory conducive for you, or sensory alerting or overstimulating. I've had a client years ago who actually designed her house, her bedroom, her kitchen around her sensory needs. And best holiday destination, should you go on an African safari or go to India, because environments provide different type of sensory input. And then obviously it's really interesting because usually you don't go alone on holiday. How do you navigate between other people in your life to understand needs? Clothing and food all have got a sensory element to it. So we provide guidelines in detail here. Another one, sensory strategies for home, family life and relationships. I started sensory intelligence with families, parenting, teachers, many moons ago. So there's a lot to be said about if you understand your own thresholds and you understand those of your family members, your kids, or partners, it's really, really useful. What family activities should be ideal? How do you maximize quality time? And also, what parenting style do you have? Parenting style was the first introduction that I did into understanding who we are and what our relationships are like, and the quality of our relationships if we understand sensory thresholds. Strategies for work, leadership styles, because your Century threshold really, the Century Matrix and Century Assessment does dovetail with personality style and other type of strengths finder, other type of assessments, but it does also provide a different element to leadership style, teamwork. How do we work best with others? Because understanding that people have different needs, how to improve your productivity, which is obviously important, making the most of shared workspaces. Shared workspaces is really a reality. And if we work in close proximity with other people, the senses are can be really playing havoc in how people connect with each other. And then seating for best productivity. Believe it or not, where you choose to sit or not choose to sit has a Century origin. Obviously, the more extreme you are on a threshold continuum, the more significant this will be for you. But it provides really, really great insight to why we do what we do and how can we maximize that so that we make life easier. And then that's it. And then love is the poetry of the senses. I remember the designer that designed the report many years ago. She just gave me that. I was like, oh, that's perfect, because it is the poetry of the senses. Okay. So that's the Century Matrix in a bit of a nutshell, so that you see we do work with this, but as I say, and a lot of it is understanding what is Century threshold, what do we do with it, why is it important, how does it impact people, and how can we use this practical, easy, and helping people to firstly help you to understand yourself better, and secondly, how do we help our clients going forward? Questions. I've spoken too much. Anyone who's got a question? Marita, I don't know if there was any questions there.
There were no questions in the chat box. So I don't know if anyone wants to raise their hand or put a question in the chat box. You're more than welcome to. This is your chance.
Absolutely. Thanks. Yeah, the course, there's obviously different time zones, 2 time slots. Okay.
Hi, this is Krishni.
Hi, Krishni. Thank you. Go for it.
I just want to find out, do you get buy-in from companies? Like if you were to sort of motivate like a certain company, let's say a call center needs the sensory ergonomics, because we see a lot of mental and behavioral conditions, or it's prevalent when it comes to disability claims. A lot of the issues are work-related stress. We do have some call center clients, but I just want to find out, what is the buy-in like, and what have the outcomes been?
Krishni, are you in Durban?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, that's the call center mecca. Okay, this is recorded, so I'm just got to be really careful what I say now. I am a little bit opinionated and sometimes get myself in hot water.
Also, when you motivate for something like this, would it be seen as occupational health and safety risk? If the work environment, so would that be one way to sell it?
Yeah. So, Krishni, let me. There's a very easy answer to that. I've done my PhD.
A lot of the clients, the corporates don't want to pay for preventative strategies to managing incapacitated employees, where work stress is a contributing factor.
Of course.
And a lot of the people, we see them when they're already disabled, and then it's so difficult to get them back to work.
Yeah. But that disability route, so it's always like return on investment. So, and I can't tell you how many case studies and pilot studies I have done for the call center industry. It's all going back to how much does it cost them to bring a new recruit into the call center. So I usually sell in the call center industry around absenteeism and attrition. What does absenteeism cost the industry? What does attrition cost the industry? I mean, it costs about,
and then sorry to interrupt. And can this be used as a way to tell them, these are the people you should be recruiting? And this should be part of your assessment, because this is going to go for every corporate, because if we're finding that everybody is having a problem with work stress, conflict with their managers, workload, and then it becomes a disability. And Yeah, so it's a very interesting course. I've just been very busy and I'd love to do it. Yeah, and thanks for all the information.
A big pleasure. Look, and again, just going back into corporates, the call center is traditionally a little bit more difficult to get their buy-in, but it's all about cost. You just got to prove it to them that it is a cost-saving factor. So if you do it recruitment up front, you will be saving money because you will be actually reducing your attrition and you'll be reducing your absenteeism. So I usually go through that calculation with a client. The other thing is also to take, what does disability cost? So, so if you just take it back to, what does absenteeism cost? What does attrition cost? What does it cost the client or the company when there's work stress and people are absent? And then they lose that particular employee, and then they have to start to recruit again. So the only way to convince a corporate is to give them to cost what the problem is costing them, and then to show if they would use this as a solution, what are they going to save? That's unfortunately, from a corporate point of view, that's all that they're interested in. But there's more than enough data to show them. I mean, that's what I've proven in my PhD research. I've shown people with low thresholds actually do poorer quality of work, and they don't last as long, and they are more absent in the call center industry. And then, yes, they do end up being the group that leave the industry, end up with depression, anxiety, and yes, and go a disabled route, which is really, really sad. We shouldn't go there. Another thing is possibly the medical aid. I would, if you're struggling with the employer or the organization, you can also recruit the medical aid to support you in that, because as soon as you go into disability or illness, then the medical aid start to having to incur cost around that. So there are two levels where you can position this for an employer. So it's not impossible, you can. And I'm always open to help. That's why we also provide you with a case study template, because it's all around, this is the work that I've done before, this is the benefit that I've had. And then I would ask client. I remember I once was at a call center and asked, about attrition, and said, oh no, their attrition is fine. I said, how much? They said it's about 10%. I'm like, okay, no, that isn't a lot. But what's your attrition the first 6 months? And I said, oh, that's very high. Well, if people are not going to fit or shouldn't be recruited for that industry, you're going to pick it up within 6 months. So it's just asking the right questions and providing them with the right data and the right costing calculations. And it is possible to do that. Okay. Thanks for that question, Chrisney. Yes, and then Durban and the call centers, they're big. And they do a lot of stuff wrong. I mean, I've spent a lot of time in the call center industry in South Africa, and it is a tough one, but definitely one that need this quite extensively. Yes, and we did design a recruitment tool. That was the first assessment that I've put together for the call center industry. Thank you, Krishni. Other questions, guys? Anyone else? Any other questions? Doesn't look like it. Going, gone. Going, gone. Okay. Brilliant. Okay. I think that's it, guys. Thank you for your eyes and your ears. We've got 2 minutes still, but thanks for being here. If you want to look at the recording later on, happy to share it with you. Those of you who are interested in the course, please touch base with Alison. Alison, have you got everyone's details that are on the course? Ali?
I'm just needing Aishwarya's. Aishwarya.
Okay.
Please, if you can drop me a little note, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, awesome. So guys, let us
everybody
know.
else I have.
Awesome. We would love to have you on our course. We build a big community. Marita and I are very invested into it. It takes a lot of our time. We love it. I've been doing it since 2012. It is really the only way for us to spread the value and the benefit, and how we can help clients, our clients, ourselves firstly, and our clients. So we would love to, should I share my email? Aishwarya, you can send it to one of us just personally. Just send it to Alison on a personal chat in the call. So if you just click under, oh, sure, yeah, that would be better, because I don't know, some people are you know, that you don't want to send your email in the chat box. I'm sure everyone is fine, but rather just keep it to Alison in a private message. Thanks, guys. Thanks for being here. Take care. If there's any more questions, feel free to touch base with us. We would love to see you on the course, and keep up the good work, whatever you are doing, and take care of yourself. And thanks, Alison and Marita. Take care, guys, and we'll see you soon. Cheers.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.